Alright everyone, welcome back. This is the 12th video in our video series of creating Node.js apps from beginning to end. This video is going to be the first in the three-part series of creating our final application using everything we've learned to this point. So if you've made it this far, congratulations on learning all these new skills, and I hope you're ready to put them to the test. So let's talk about what this app is going to do. This app is going to be a single page application. We're going to call it something like Status of You. It's going to be your own personal little mini blog that's going to allow you to create, read, edit, and delete your own little posts. Through the course of this app creation process, I will present you with mini challenges. These are going to be things that we've done already in past videos several times, and you should be able to do by now. So I will present you with a mini challenge. I'll tell you what it is, and it's going to be something like getting our app created or getting a certain route set up initially. So let's go ahead and dive in and get started with that. So first things first, we need to create our app, and that is the first mini challenge. So remember, use Express Generator to create the app and call it whatever you like. Remember to use the view flag and set the view engine to pug if you're going to be following along and using the same view engine I do. Go into the app after you've created it and install all the dependencies, and then install Mongoose and NodeMon as well. Create that dev start script that we have always created in order to run our app, and then finally use it to run the app. Open it in your browser and make sure everything you did is set up correctly. So go ahead and pause the video and do that now. Alright, hopefully you got it. If not, or if you just want to follow along, I'm going to do it on my computer. So first of all, I'm going to go to my desktop. So you can see this app on my desktop. And I'm going to use Express Generator. I'm going to set the view to pug, and I'm going to call this Status of You, little Status of You blog. There it is. So I'm going to go into that directory, and now I'm going to run npm install, and hopefully you notice most of these are right here for you, little instructions for you to be able to run. That should have helped you out. After I do that, I'm going to open this all up in my code editor. Now I'm going to head over to package.json, create that dev start script, and I am going to copy this first debugging part, paste it in there, and then run it with NodeMon. And there we go. Now I need to run npm install Mongoose and NodeMon. That way I can actually use NodeMon and we can use Mongoose in a little bit. I see I have an update here, so I'm going to go ahead and just do that. Alright, and now I'm going to go ahead and run npm run dev start. Okay, oh, got to save that file so it'll be able to. Okay, so this is an error that you might run into where you start to edit your package.json and then you do something like installing some packages, and when it installs those packages, it's going to update your dependencies, but here you've tried to update something else and you haven't saved it. So I'm going to copy that, X out of here without saving because it won't let me save, and now go back to it, and you'll see it added NodeMon and Mongoose. So this is the latest version, and now I can add that dev start script there. Alright, and now save it, and now run npm run dev start. And there we go. My app is running on port 3000. So last thing, go ahead and check it out, and there it is. So I hope you got all this done and it didn't pose any issues for you. If not, don't worry, you'll get the hang of it pretty soon. Alright, so now that we have that, let's clean up some unneeded code here. So remember I said this is a single page application, so we're not going to need um, some of these separate things like this users route. We're not going to need that, so let's go ahead and delete that. It's nice that Express Generator creates that for us because a lot of times you will want some sort of users partition to your app, but in this instance we don't, so we're just going to delete both of those. Alright, so now that is all cleaned up and we only have the things that we need. Alright, so the next step is to start creating our layout. This is what our index page looks like, and we want to add our bootstrap. If you remember from getbootstrap.com, we want to add this bootstrap to our page that we're going to be creating, so we want to put it in our layout. So that's going to be your next mini challenge, and what you're going to need to do is go to bootstrap.com or getbootstrap.com, go to that get started page, copy the CDS CDN link, so that would be this link right here, put it into your layout, and copy the JavaScript, put it at the bottom of the body, and then also grab those two meta tags that we're going to need for Bootstrap to work correctly and put it into Bootstrap's page and add them to the header as well. So go ahead and pause the video, try to do that, shouldn't be too hard. Alright, I hope you got that. If not, don't worry, we're going to do it really quickly and you'll get the hang of this in no time. So I copied that. Alright, and remember we want to make this a pug styled element. So that just means we take out the brackets, add parentheses around the attributes, and take out that bracket in this space as well. And that is all it takes to turn it into a pug styled style sheet. Now I will mention one thing. You'll notice here how we put it before our custom style sheets. That's typically what you're going to want to do, because if you have some default Bootstrap styles that you're using, but you want to tweak something and style it a different way, you're going to have to put your custom styles after the Bootstrap style, so it will load second and override whatever's been done in Bootstrap. So if you ever want to edit some Bootstrap stuff, it's better to edit it in your own personal custom style sheet than trying to go ahead into your downloaded Bootstrap if you chose to do that and trying to edit there. It's not a good idea to do that. You'll mess with more things than you think. So just go ahead and add a custom style sheet after the Bootstrap link and go ahead and do your custom styles there. So we're going to do an example of that. We are going to go to our public style sheets style.css, and these are a couple things that Express Generator put in there for us that we don't actually need because Bootstrap has our stuff in there for us. But one thing we want to do is we want to create a custom background. So I was going to say background gray. And we're just going to say the background color is going to be EC. And that's just going to be a nice looking gray that's going to make all our div backgrounds a uniform color, kind of bring our page together. Okay, so now we have the style sheets in there. Remember, we need to copy and paste those JavaScripts as well. And I'm going to go ahead and delete those script tags, add that in parentheses, and then delete that space, make a parenthesis, and delete those tags. Oh, and actually no, we want all those indented. There we go. Alright, so now we have the Bootstrap styles, we have the Bootstrap JavaScript, and last thing, we need those initial Bootstrap meta tags right there. So get those, put those, where did they put it? They put it above the title. Alright, I will just follow along and put it above the title. Remember, and parentheses, beginning parentheses, delete the tag. And there we go. So our layout is styled and set up. So let's go ahead and re-render that, reload that page, and you'll see that we don't get that padding we wanted, but don't worry, we're going to fix that in a second, but we do get a little bit different font. This is the Bootstrap default font styles. All right, now this index page is nowhere near where we want it to be, so let's go ahead and start getting it to look like what we want. All right, so let's think about what we want to do. We are going to want to be creating a single page little blog application that's going to have posts, and it's going to have a form for creating our posts, and then maybe a header announcing what our page is. So I think if we had a div that just kind of told us what the page was, and then a form, and then the posts, that would be great. But what if we could use Bootstrap, which we can, to very easily create a form that hides away when we don't need it. So if we wanted to create a post, it would show us a form, and then once we created the post, it would disappear and just list all of our posts underneath of it. So let's go ahead and get started building that. All right, so we're going to go to index.pug, and remember, indentation is very important. So if you have any weird errors while you're following along with the look of your UI, it's probably with the indentation that you did in Pug, or mistyping a class from Bootstrap. So we're going to go ahead, just delete those, and in this content block, we are going to start by placing a container, which is Bootstrap's way of setting up the container for the page, and then we put a row to signify to start building our layout, a single column, and in that column we want all the text in there to be centered, and then in that column we want a jumbotron. And I hope by now you have taken some time to look at the Bootstrap documentation and how they use all of these to work together to create a nice layout for your page. Basically, this is a wrapper for everything that gives us some nice padding like we had earlier. Row allows us to create elements in a row, and then column allows us to break up that row into different columns. So that's why we have all that. And then inside that column, we start building some part of the page. If I put just column, it's going to take up the entire width of the row. If I put column 6, it's going to take up half, because Bootstrap fits 12 columns in each row. So that's going to take up half of my row. That'll take up a fourth of my row. But I'm just going to put column, and it'll default take up the entire row, center it. And then I'm going to put a jumbotron inside of that. And inside of that jumbotron, I will place a H1 and make the text the primary color, and just say status of you, and that's the title of my page. All right, so and then paragraph with the class of lead, and it's going to say here is where I can post anything I like. All right, so let's go ahead, save that, and look at it. So here we go. We see we got that the container gave us some padding on the sides. Then we have one row with one column inside of it that takes up that entire row, and the text is centered inside and just gives us the header and some description text beneath it. So you'll notice here we have that it's really tight up against the top. We don't want that. So let's go ahead. Let's add some padding to the container on the top. So we do that with one of the utility classes, and we'll just say P for padding, T for top, and then 5, because that's the 5th version of their padding styles, which is the largest. So go ahead and load that, and you'll see it gave us a nice little padding there at the top as well. So now let's add a button that allows us to show that form, which will create our posts with. So we don't want the button to be inside the jumbotron. So remember, with our indentation, we want it to be on the same level as the jumbotron, and that way it will be on the same HTML DOM level as it. So we're going to have the button, and we're going to have a, I guess I'll have the classes listed out with button that sets up all buttons, and then the type of button that we want is, yeah, we'll stick with the primary color scheme. And then we want the type of button to just be button, and the data toggle, this is important, it's going to equal collapse, and the data target equals probably something like form. Okay, so, and then the button is just going to say add a new post. Okay, so I'm going to save that. We'll go ahead and look at it. Okay, so there's our button. I think we want that to be a bigger button. I think a bigger button would look nice. So let's say button, I think it's just LG. Save that. There we go. So that's a little larger. I like to look at that. Now, what this does right now is nothing, but what we attach to it is a data toggle of collapse. So that means it's going to toggle a collapsible element, and the target, or the element that it's going to target and collapse, is going to be a element with the ID of form. So let's go ahead and create that element. So we can just create this here, and it will be a div with the element, the ID of form, and the class of collapsed, or just collapse, because it will be toggable to be collapsed. And we're going to give it a margin on the top of 2 to separate it away from this button. Otherwise, it'll butt up right against the button. So we want to give it a margin on the top there. And now we're going to put our form inside of a card, a Bootstrap card. So just card body is going to be that background gray color. And let's go ahead and make our, or no, I'll show you what it looks like without that. And then just a P, an element, or a paragraph tag, and just some folder text. So that's just going to allow us to see this, how this button and this collapsible div right here work together. So let's go ahead and load that, and you'll see nothing happen, but that's because all of these collapse elements that you add that class to start out collapsed, and if you click this, you'll see it shows up there with just our holder text in there. But we can show and hide this very easily, and it shows us our div right there that we're going to put the form in. So you'll also notice that these colors are different. So what I've done is created our background gray utility for us that we can just add to any element, and it gives it the background color so that these background colors will match and look a lot better there. Alright, so now let's add the form. We're going to give the form an action of just slash and a method of post. This means when it is submitted, it'll be submitted with a post method over the URL with just a plain slash. That's what we want. So let's go ahead and create that form. So inside the card, I now want a form with an action of slash and a method of post. And then I want to start creating my Bootstrap form, and I do that by creating a form group and a row inside of that to create a row of elements, and a column inside my row that's going to take up 2 columns in the row, and the text inside of that is going to be aligned to the right. That's because I'm going to have my label for my input in there. So label, and I'm going to give it a margin on the top of 2, and this label is going to be for an input with the name of title. It's just going to say title. And then I'm going to have a column that takes up the other, so 8 spaces, and that's going to be my input, and that's going to be a form control element class. It's going to have an ID. I guess I could do with an ID of title, and then a name of title as well. And we're going to have a placeholder that just says an interesting title. Nope, no semicolon. Alright, so there we go. Reload that, check that out, and you'll see how we created a row of elements here. I'm going to put 2 elements inside of it. One of them is a 2-spot column that just has the word title in it, and it's right aligned, so it goes next to the input that we can type things into right here. So let's go ahead and create so this will be the title input. Let's go ahead and create the body of the message input, and it's going to be the same in a lot of respects to this. So I'm going to copy that whole form group, and on the same indentation level as it, create another one. The only difference is this is not going to be an input. This is going to be a text area, no dash there, text area. And with a text area, we need to have how many rows we want it to take up initially. So I'll just add that at the end. The rows is going to be 5. We're going to check that out. And there we go. That still says title. So let's go ahead and fix that. It's the problem with copy and paste. So we'll just say the body. Right, so now we have a title and a body. And now we are going to create our submit button. So all that same stuff again. And actually here we don't want the 2 columns. We just want a single column. And inside of there we just want a button. And again, the default button. And then button success. That'll give us a nice green background. The type is going to be a submit. So it submits our form for us. The data toggle is going to equal collapse. And the data target is going to equal form. So I hope you can guess why we're doing this. And I'll show you here. So we reload this, and now we have that beautiful little tiny button. And that's because we need to add some text. Submit the post. Save that. So now a button will actually have some text. There we go. Submit the post. So if you can guess what's going to happen here, now whenever we type stuff in and submit the post, we get a that's because we haven't set the route up yet. So let's go ahead and take that out for a second. No, we don't want it. Okay, just go back. All right, there we go. And now, there we go. So now we would type in a title, some message, and when we hit submit the post, it'll submit and close that post for us, so we don't have to have some other way of closing it after we submit. It's all in one step. So you want to be thinking about things like that make the user experience better, because it would be kind of sucky if I click submit and then I also have to go click an X or something. No, this whole submit thing just does it all for me, and there we go. So I'm going to add that back to my form. So now to keep setting up the UI, we're going to add a couple dummy posts to the bottom here, and so just follow along and you'll see what I mean. So we just have an example of some posts is all I'm doing. Alright, so we want all these dummy posts to have their own row, so we want to set them up on this indentation level right here, so it'll all be on another row. So let's go ahead and, I believe that's the right indentation level, yep. So each one's going to have their own row, and each one is going to have a margin on the top of 3 to separate them all out. Each one is going to take up 11 columns because we're going to have something else that's going to take up that last column. Remember, we have 12. And so each post itself is going to be inside a card, and the card header will have the title of it. Card title, so this will be the title of the post. So we'll just say an awesome title, and we will also have a card body, and if you can guess, this is going to have the text, and it's going to be, this is an interesting post about blah blah blah. So this is going to be the body of our post, and this will be the title of our post. So pretty easy there. That's going to be our post. So what are we going to put in this last column? Well, remember, we want to be able to update and delete our posts as well. So we need, like, if we have the post here, which let's go ahead and save and show that. So there we go. There's our post. And say we needed those buttons over here. So let's go ahead and add those buttons over here. So we are going to create a form. And that form is going to have an action of just edit post, and we're going to give that a margin on the top of 2 to even things out, space it out a little bit. We have an input here. Now look at this, the type will be hidden. Okay, and we'll talk about that in just a second. The name is just going to be ID, and the value is going to be the post.id. And then the button here that we will be showing will be button outline. And what's this? The edit. So I think that should probably, let's say it'll be blue primary. And then this will be, have a type of submit to submit the form. And it'll just say edit. So go ahead and look at that. And there we go, we have our nice little edit button. I think we should try to align that over to the left a little bit. So let's say everything in this column is going to be on the left. So text left. And that didn't do it. So here is what something like your DevTools is going to be good for. You can open up your DevTools. If you're in Google Chrome, you can go ahead and do the same thing I just did, inspect element, and it'll bring up your DevTools, or you can go over to your, over here you have like 3 little buttons, and you drop down more tools, developer tools, and you can open this up. But you will be able to, for Google Chrome, it'll be over here, it's a little button, but you click this and you can go over and look at these elements and see, okay, so my column has right now some padding, and this also has some padding. So let's go ahead and take the padding off the left side of my button and off the right side of the div right there. So here on this column, the padding on the right is going to be 0, and on this column, the padding on the left is going to be 0. Save that, update it. There we go. Now we're butting right up against it. Beautiful. No, that's not what we wanted. So let's give it a padding on the right maybe of 2. There we go. Now it's close enough, but it's tight, and we can tell that it belongs to that pretty easily. So that was a handy little demo of how you can start using these dev tools to select your elements, look at them, and see, okay, which one's giving it the style that I don't want, that I want to fix. And there we go. So once you get that, now let's go ahead and copy this, paste it below on the same level, and this is just going to have an action of delete post and a method of post. And the reason that this one has a method of post is because we're going to be posting this value right here. And this one, we're just going to send it on the default get method. so that we can open up a new form for editing the post. So here we are going to be deleting the post. So let's go ahead and say delete. And let's change that color to something more scary, like danger, to show them that they're going to be doing something serious, like deleting their whole post. And there we go. We have two buttons now. That's a little tight though, I think. So I'm going to send this one a little bit farther away. Let's say the top margin will be 3. And then move down a little bit, and I think that looks a little better, but I think it'll look even better if we put a 3 there as well. And there we go. Those look nicely centered to me. So now we have our post and our 2 buttons to edit and delete those posts. Now let's talk about what I did here. So I created a form with a hidden input, which what that does is that allows us to have a value in that hidden input that the user doesn't know about, but when they click our button that'll submit the form, it'll submit that hidden input to our server and we can go ahead and use it. So that's a neat little trick to be able to post or send certain data to the server without the user having to type anything in. Just by the click of the button, they send us the post that they're going to be using, which we'll get by the post ID. And this right now would literally be post ID, but in a second we're going to change this to be the post ID of each post that we render dynamically. And you'll see how we do that in the next lesson. So now we have our UI pretty much set up and we know where everything goes. And if we wanted, we could just go ahead and copy this whole thing and create 2 more of these just to show us what it'll look like with a few posts. So there we go. Each one has their own edit and delete button. So now we have everything set up. We know where everything goes. We can start to get onto the server side and do something there to make this page interactable, and we can do things with it. So later we're going to come back and change a few things, namely these posts. We're going to be changing once we know what data we are going to be passing to the view. We're going to start rendering these dynamically instead of having just static dummy text in here and copying and pasting every single post we want. No, we're going to render each one dynamically. It's going to be a lot less code than this, and you're going to love it once you see it. So in the next lesson, we're going to configure our database to hold these posts, because in order to start rendering them and storing them, we need somewhere to store them. So we're going to set up our database to do that, and we're going to build our post schema with the database. So I'll see you there.